We continue to preview the 2025 college football season. Our stop today is Sioux City, Iowa, as we get to visit again with someone who's a friend of the channel here. We appreciate Coach Shane LaDage, the head football coach of the Briar Cliff Chargers, heading into season number 5. Coach, always a privilege to get to visit with you. And I want to start, I have to start with 2024. I'll talk about that, I guess, in a sense, to kind of get that out of the way. 2-9 in the season last year. It was not what you wanted. There were injuries. There were other things that you dealt with. Let's talk about 2024 for just a moment.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I told you this is my favorite one to do every year. But
thank you.
2024 was did not live up to expectations in any realm. In any phase of the game, I really was excited about the roster we had coming back with a lot of really talented seniors. Just nothing really clicked. I felt like we didn't play complementary football all year. I thought if one side of the ball was playing well, the other was not at all. And then, we went through a rash of injuries, especially at quarterback, that really hurt us. Matt Mason, a running back, got hurt late in the year. And we dealt with some stuff on the defensive side of the ball where we were kind of mixing and matching, and we just never hit our groove. I thought we played some decent ball early, lost in overtime to St. Ambrose. And I didn't do a very good job calling offense at the end of that game. But then to bounce back and beat Doane, and again, didn't play great, but found a way to win that one. And then we just went through a string of just some bad losses. And then we were able to beat Waldorf, and then really just ended the season on not a great streak there. So we learned a lot. I really think it led us to have a really good offseason. Really need to unify our team. I really felt it divide at times last year, and that's my fault. So we really took a hard look as a staff, and me, had to look in the mirror and what do we have to do to fix this from a culture perspective. And I think we did that. And we've had a really good off season. We've had a fantastic summer. We've brought in some really good guys. We've really developed the people we have. And we're hoping that we learned from a lot of our shortcomings and can turn those into some really positive things going into this fall.
I appreciate every bit of that, and I know culture is not just a buzzword. It is a real thing, and that's something that has to be in place. You made some adjustments that you could see, at least outwardly. Now, I know some of those things are internally, that those are the adjustments that you and your staff and your team know. But, I mean, there were some things that we saw on the outside, too. A couple of changes on staff, which is going to happen. There's going to be that every year. But if you have the opportunity, Coach, I mean, I'd love to hear a couple of things that you look at and go, okay, here are a couple of key things that we addressed and we're looking to make changes or are already implementing changes. I guess here we are about a month away, a little more than a month away as of this recording. So changes that you've made and you've addressed in the spring and summer.
Yeah, I think first off, just with our staff, I'm really excited about who we have right now. And not that I wasn't last year. But I thought one of the key things I needed to do was be a better head coach. And so when we had some staff changes, one thing I decided to do was no longer call our offense. So I brought in Coach Sayre from the University of Wyoming. I used to be at Wyoming, so we have some common friends in the profession, and was able to get him in. And I really felt like that was going to allow me to be around everybody a little bit more and take some stuff off my plate from a game planning perspective and coaching the quarterbacks to where I can be much more involved in everything we're doing, and hopefully be much more involved with everybody on our team. One thing I heard a lot from the defensive players was just like, during the week, Coach, other than before practice and after practice, we just don't get a lot from you. And when things aren't going well, you got to be able to not take the place of a coach or things like that, but your voice, I think, supporting our guys on the other side of the ball just becomes a lot more important. And I think helping manage games better. When you're in between series on offense, you're trying to figure out what you're going to call next series and what adjustments, and you're not paying enough attention to defense and being able to help out a little bit or on special teams. So I took that off my plate, and I'll run special teams now. And that's been awesome because I get to coach everybody during those periods. It doesn't matter if you're on offense, defense, everybody's involved in that. And so that's been really good. It's helped us develop culture. Again, Coach Sayre's been phenomenal with what he's doing with our offense. And you're not going to see a ton of changes, but a new voice in there, really experienced with quarterbacks. He's been around some of the best in the business, and Jay Johnson at the University of Wyoming, and he was around Tim Polasek, who just won a national championship now at North Dakota State. I think two of the best quarterback developers and offensive minds in the game. And so he's been able to bring some things there. And then we brought Coach Ross back as our offensive line coach. Coach Ross was a senior on the O-line my first year here, and then GA'd for us, and has totally bought into our culture and what we're doing. And he is a Briar Cliff guy through and through. His dad works on campus for us and is a huge supporter. So having him back, not only is a super talented coach, but just somebody that totally believes in what we're doing. So I think that's been really good for us. Not that me not coaching offense just fixes things, right? But I think it's allowed me, I think, to really just oversee things better. And I think it's brought in somebody that is probably better than me at some things on offense to run that side of the ball. So I think there's been a ton of really positive changes with that. And can we bring back a really talented roster and got some fresh faces in here that I think are going to be able to do a lot for us.
Well, let's go ahead and stay with the offense then. I know that's a place that you mentioned, and the way it looks, there are some familiar faces coming back. Brock Syatt coming back. He was injured in week 7, and it's a second year in a row he's dealt with an injury over the course of the season, but we know that he's going to have a place on the offense again this year. Matthew Mason, you mentioned him. He was injured, out the last couple of games, so he didn't get to get the numbers he'd had the year before. They were a little bit lower anyway, but I mean, that was, I think, a part of the season too. Stephen Whiting coming back, and he's going to be a big part of that offense too. But I'd love to hear about your take for all of it.
Yeah, obviously starting at quarterback, bringing Brock back is huge. Before he got hurt, I think he was second in the conference in every major passing statistic, and just really has a good grasp of our team. The guys love him. He's a great leader, and he's just got some moxie to him. He's got a way to extend plays. He's just continues to get better and better. And then you look at him, he goes and he's an all-conference pitcher for us in the baseball season, on a conference championship team. Like, just a great athlete, and then Judd Roberts behind him. Judd continues to get better and better. I think Judd's probably got as big an arm as anybody in NAIA football and has really continued to progress. So we feel really good about that quarterback room and some of the fresh faces we have coming in behind them for our future. I'm really excited about. And then you mentioned Matt coming back and healthy. Matt's super talented, great kid. We need to really get him going early and keep him going and not kind of ride these ebbs and flows of our running game. And there's really a few guys behind him that have played a lot of downs. And Iman Pittman played really good in his place. He had 3 or 4 touchdowns against Waldorf. And then Chase Thomas really played well. He led us in yards per carry. And he's a kid that we can flex out, put at receiver. We can do a lot with. So that'll be really good. And then you mentioned Steven. I think probably as good of a tight end as there is at our level. Mm-hmm. He's bulked up. He really took this offseason really serious. He looks different. He's much bigger. He's always kind of been that tall, skinny kid that you just try to move all over, but he looks like a tight end now, and he's become a much better blocker. We're really excited with what we can do with him. And, Kamani Fleurmay's back at receiver. Kamani had a really good year for us last fall. And then there's going to be some fresh faces in that group, whether it's transfers or some young guys or some guys that have come through the program that haven't played a lot yet. So excited to see who kind of takes that next step in that group. And what I'm most excited about, honestly, we pretty much bring back everybody up front. And that's going to be a really veteran group that has shown some real promise. I think our strength staff has done just an unbelievable job with those guys this offseason. They're bigger, they're stronger, they bend better, they move better. And then we got a kid that had to redshirt last year, Zachary Raychow, was a Division I transfer that had to sit in the fall. He's going now, and he's as good of an offensive lineman and as I've been around at any level. And I'm hoping he can really do some things for us and help us this fall as well.
That's always fun to hear because we don't talk about the line as much unless something goes wrong. So preseason, that's when you get to talk about the offensive line. So I'm glad to hear that there's a strength coming back. And by the way, one last thing about Brock too, all-conference arm in the spring, he actually got all-conference recognition, got honorable mention, and he played 7 games. So yeah. that really, I think, is a testament, Coach, to what he brought to the table last year, even if it was not the complete season.
Yeah, he's phenomenal athlete. I mean, he really did some good things for us early. He's got to be a little bit more consistent. He ran into a little bit turning the ball over early in some games, and then would kind of get himself going. So we got to clean that up. But yeah, talking about honorable mention, all-conference kid, 7 games, then goes out and pitches as an all-conference kid for there's not a lot of kids in the country doing that. And,
right.
And on top of that, a 4.0 student. So you're just talking about a kid that does it right all the time. We're really excited to have him back.
All right, that's right up my alley. I like the 4.0. That's really pretty cool. We're visiting now with Coach Shane LaDage here on Midwest Sports Net, previewing the 2025 season. And I encourage you, please take some time to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We enjoy talking about small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond. Coach, we look to the defensive side of the ball, and from a numerical perspective, just look down there. There are a lot of players that saw a lot of time and put up a lot of production for you defensively that aren't there anymore. I mean, two names that stand out are Lopez and Williams, who are gone heading into 2025. So it's a clean slate for me to ask you, what's your defense going to look like this year?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit different, right? You know, but Carlos was arguably the best D lineman in our conference last year. And so, you know, led us in TFLs and sacks. And so losing him is huge. But we've brought in some transfers. We got some young guys that I think can contribute a little bit. But that's going to be a new group up there that is really going to have to come along in a hurry. We had a strong spring. And again, we brought in some guys. Ethan Dolan he's a Sioux City kid, was at North High, went to UNI out of high school with the coaching change, decided to come back home. And he's very talented. He's as athletic as anybody on our team, as strong as anybody on our team. We're going to hang our hat on him. Blake Hogenkamp is another kid. He was across town to start his career, left there, came here, sat last year. Another kid that we're really excited about up front. And some guys that really contributed quite a bit last year that just need to take that next step, that we're young, that we're going to hang our hat on. So D-line will definitely look different. But I think we have some guys that can really flourish in those roles, and hopefully even be better than what we had before. And then at backer, that's going to look a lot different. You know, you mentioned Braden Pomier-Williams, I think as good of a player as we've had here. Really productive, fought through injuries, tough as nails. And then Brett Tinker, a kid, you know, he's, I think, second all-time in tackles in program history. Those guys are gone. So Max Rascone played a lot at backer last year and played really well, especially as the season went on, and had just a phenomenal spring. Great leader. He'll be playing our Mike backer position. And then we've really moved some guys around. Johnny Bowser's he was playing our nickel spot. He's going to move into backer. Started his career at quarterback here, moved him to defense last year, did some great things, and now we're just going to move him into the box, which I think is much more natural for him. And then we moved Jason Freeman down from safety to backer, and he had a great spring. We just really felt like we probably should have made the move 2 years ago. He wasn't super thrilled about it then, but really bought into it now and has been excellent there. And I think just getting him in a little bit more confined space with how smart he is has been really good for us. And then I think you're going to see a couple young guys, some new guys in that room that are going to be able to come in and help, that have been here all summer, that have really impressed us. And then on the back end is kind of a mix and match of some younger guys and some guys with some real experience. We'll have Tim McCarthy back from injury. He had a pretty nasty back injury last year that took him out for most of the year, and we felt that. He's just a really smart, savvy player. I thought he really played more physical at the start of the year before he got hurt. It was really fun to watch him. And then when he got hurt, that we felt that. So having Tim hopefully back and healthy is going to be really critical. Kale Forsyth played a lot at safety, has really worked on, you know, his speed and movement skills, really taken his offseason serious. And I thought when he showed back up here early this summer, has continued to progress. Kevon Booker's a guy at corner. He played 2 games. We kept his red shirt last year and was pretty dang good when he played. He's probably the fastest kid on our team. We're really excited about him. And then we'll kind of see who shakes out at that other corner spot. We got a transfer that was here in the spring in Jaden Self, and then Ben Greer played some really quality reps for us last year. He dealt with some injuries, but he's back and looks better than he ever has. And we'll kind of see who else shakes out in those groups. But I'm excited about that group. I think they love football as much as anybody we've had on that back end. We're just always in the office, always wanting to do more.
That's cool.
They got a little bit of edge to them that we maybe haven't had before in that group. So really just kind of excited to see how that group continues to flourish. I think Coach Cozio, our defensive coordinator, he works with that group and has really done a good job as he's continued to develop them as well.
You talked about taking over the role with special teams, and again, you get to have everybody get to be a part of everyone's game with that. Well, adjustments for 2025, so you get to look at some players. Had two kickers last year. One of them is returning, one not. You're going to be needing to look at a new punter as well. Tell us a little bit about special teams.
Yeah, I thought we were pretty inconsistent there last year. Our field goal numbers are not great. Our extra point numbers are not great. But Jacob, who's coming back, has had a really strong offseason. He's really worked at his craft. He loves it. He lives for it. He's a weight room guy. He is like not your typical kicker where he's out there doing everything with everybody else, and he's kind of a meathead in the weight room. And, we're testing speed numbers this summer, and he's one of our top guys. He's really just taken a loving to that, and so we're going to give him an opportunity to do both. He's a really talented punter, just naturally. He hasn't put a ton of work into it, but when his drops are consistent, that thing really pops off his foot. And so he's got an opportunity to do both, but we got a couple other guys coming in the fold that I think are going to be able to help us in either of those roles. And we're just going to figure out who's the best at each and let them ride. But that's special teams have been my baby for a long time. I'm really excited to be back in that role. Something I really enjoy. I don't know that a lot of coaches always do. So when you get somebody that really enjoys that part of the game and the schematics of it, I think will rub off on our team a little bit too, I'm hoping. And we'll have some fresh faces at returner too. And we'll see who kind of grabs those roles, whether it's some guys that have been on our roster already. We signed the kid out of South Carolina that was initially going to go to Limestone before they shut their school down or their program down, who had 13 returning touchdowns last year as a senior. So we're hoping he can maybe bring some dynamic ability to that role. So I'm excited to see how that part of the special teams realm shakes out too.
Wow, that's promising. I don't know if it has a direct correlation, Coach, but I think with the national media prominence for Pat McAfee and the fact that he will just not wear anything with sleeves, I think there are a lot of kickers and punters out there that are being encouraged to go, hey, it's all right to spend a little more time in the weight room.
Yep, I love it. I'm a big Pat McAfee fan. So somewhere in this office, I got one of his old sweatshirts from when he first got going. So I've been with him from the start.
Okay. Does it have sleeves? I just have to ask.
Yeah, I don't need to be showing my arms off. It's got sleeves.
Okay. All right. All right. You and me both, Coach. Speaking of getting to know you, and I think we did just a little bit right there. Let me ask you the question that has been the get to know you question of the summer. Favorite 80s song or 80s band?
Anything Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Okay.
Not a bad song on any track ever. I am through and through. My dad put that in front of me as a young kid, and I have been a Tom Petty guy for my entire life.
All right. Okay. Running Down a Dream is my favorite, and I listen to that one regularly. So that's a good choice, Coach. We'll take that. We look at the schedule in 2025, out of conference to get things started. You get St. Ambrose once again. Your first 3 games are at home. So you get St. Ambrose at home August 30th, Morningside, the Battle for the Saddle, that's at home September 6th. They don't have to go that far to play you, but still that one's at home. And then Hastings at home on September 13th.
Yeah, that's a fun start. We played that tight battle with St. Ambrose last year that went to overtime. Like I said earlier, I did not call a good overtime period as an offensive coordinator. So our guys are really chomping at the bit to get back and play them. It's kind of left a sour taste in our mouth. And obviously the Battle for the Saddle with Morningside, we got to keep chipping away at that. I think we've played some really good football against them at times, really good. You look back 3 years ago in 22, we put together a great first half against them. And then 2023, we dropped a touchdown going into half, or I believe it would have been tied. And they kind of took some of the wind out of our sails. And if we can put a complete game against them and just build some confidence, it's just never happened here before. In the history of our program, we never beat them. And so you got to get over that hump and get yourself in a position where you're late into that fourth quarter and we got a ball game. Let's go see what happens. And so really excited for that. I have a ton of respect for Coach Ryan and his staff and what they've been able to do for far longer than I've even been coaching. It is really impressive. And so, and then Hastings was just an offensive shootout last year. We played really poor defensively, but chucked the ball all over the yard, just kind of like they did against us too. And they just outlasted us. So those have historically in my time here been really tight ball games and really competitive games. So excited to get another crack at them again early in the season.
All right. And the GPAC schedule continues from that point on. And I think anyone who follows NAIA football knows that that is not an easy schedule anywhere around, but you're going to have them ready. Coach Shane LaDage, the Briar Cliff Chargers here on Midwest Sportsnet. Thank you so much, sir, for taking time with us today and previewing 2025. And we really do appreciate you stopping by the channel.
I appreciate, Joey, everything you do for NAIA and small college sports. I think, again, this is your coverage of all sports. Looking at volleyball and everything else you're doing is as good as it gets. So thank you for all you're doing too.
Thank you, sir.